What's up, guys? I'm back. You already know. Dexter. Boop, boop. My man. High five. High five. Yeah. Can I have the other one? Yeah, what a good boy. What a good boy. Alright, so today is the day we're doing turbo install. It might not be just today. It might leak into tomorrow, the next day, the following week, a month from now. I hope it doesn't take that long. It's not all going to be done today because I have a couple of parts that my buddy has that he was altering for me. Something that you may or may not want to do also, but I'll get to that when I get there. So, being the cool guy that I am, I didn't know my GoPro was not charged. So I woke up in the morning getting ready to do the car, and I realized my GoPro has 0 battery. It's completely dead. So while I was charging it, I started working on the car like always. So the car's half taken apart without me filming that part. But fortunately, I only, let's see, what did I do? I pulled it in the garage. I let it cool down a little bit. I took off the shield under the hood and the intake. So, I mean, if you're about to do a turbo install and you can't take off your intake, it's probably not the thing for you to be doing. So I don't think you guys needed me to film that part anyway. But let's go to the garage and I'll go over all the parts and stuff. Watch out, buddy. Back up. Or don't back up. Dexter, move. Thank you, sir. Be right back. All right. This pretty girl is out here in the sun. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Distractions. My girlfriend's car. All right, here she is. Back in the garage. No space again. And here we go. I turned this light on here because this hood blocks all my lights. Anyhow, I took off the big shield that goes here. Is this light making the footage better or worse? I don't even know. Let me see. It's probably making it worse for the camera. Anyhow, I took off the shield. I took off the intake. I'm on the inlet pipe right now, and if you've watched my part 3 of my exhaust video, I go into detail on how to take this guy off. It's really pretty easy. You just take off these 2 little bolts here. 10mm nut goes here. And then there's 2 10mm bolts holding all this plastic wire harness thing to it, and then there's 2 12mm bolts holding the inlet pipe, and that's it. It comes right off and you are at the turbo. Yeah, all my intake parts here. I don't know, there's so much crap. So before I was on the PRL stage 1 intake, I also have my stock intake parts. These parts are accumulating. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but anyway, here's my big pile of parts. MHI Stage 2 Turbo. Still in the bag. I'm keeping it in there to protect it from really nothing. I don't know. I don't think anything in my garage is going to damage it more than when it's attached to the motor. Anyhow, this is a PRL / Axion, or Axion, however you say it, Accord inlet kit. This is, I just assembled it, but basically the kit comes with this elbow, this coupler, titanium pipe. This is an Accord elbow, and this is a 3-inch MAF housing. They drop shipped this part directly from this company called MRP Performance, and these guys make cool stuff. So this is a 3-inch housing, 3-inch filter. The problem here is, if you watch my previous video, I said I was going to get back into this. Shout out to Michael Hinton, by the way. Hilton, I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name wrong. Just call it Mike, from Axion Performance. He was very helpful in getting me all these parts I need. PTP turbo blanket, not important for this install, but it's a cool part to have. Mike got all these parts together for me, and you know, I told him what I wanted to do. He said, get this, this, this. I got a great deal on Black Friday special sales. Slight hiccup. Sorry, Mike. I have to disclose this information. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. Nothing personal against you. I know you guys did your 400 horsepower RDX. I'm aiming for the same, maybe a little bit less. But the hiccup I had, so Mike and I use the same tuner, Derek at IMW. He is the great, the best of all time. Derek has tuned my Civic many times, a bunch of my friends' cars. I will vouch for him with my life. Now, I gave Derek my rundown on all these parts, right? And he said, do not. And I'm sorry, Mike, I will take Derek's word over yours any day. No offense. Derek said, do not use this MAF housing. Reason being, this is a 3-inch overall diameter. The inside of this becomes 2 3/4 inches because this is a thick aluminum wall. The inside being 2 3/4 inches makes it smaller than the factory, wherever, the factory MAF housing, which is about 3 1/8 inches if you measure it. So Derek's words, I'm no tuner, I'm just following his godly advice. Derek said you never want to go down in size, in diameter, in MAF housing. So sorry, Mike. I know I had this discussion with you, and you told me that that it's okay that Derek tuned your car, and then I went back to Derek and I said Mike said that you tuned his car, and then Derek said, oh yeah, I remember. I gave him a mouthful about it, and it was just basically a back and forth. Man, this thing is really hot. So as much as I would love to use this, I'm not going to use this. The last thing I want to do is make my tuner's job more difficult. So fortunately, this came drop shipped. So I went on this guy's website, and they offer this guy in 3 different sizes. So that was another $90. I ordered a 3 1/2 inch one, where the inner diameter is 3 1/4, so it's perfect. Along with that, I had to get another filter. Where is it? Oh, I lost my filter. Here it is. So I got a K&N 3 1/2 inch filter. I don't have this part on hand right now because it's at, like I said, my buddy has it. He is making a modification. So anyway, the reason Mike at Axion sends this part in 3 inches is because it fits perfectly into this Accord sleeve. Now this kit actually comes with 2 of these sleeves. It comes with an Accord one, and very fortunately they also include a Civic Type R sleeve, which they say do not use. But the Type R sleeve, this part right here, is slightly larger than the Accord. So I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use the Type R sleeve from PRL. I'm going to use the larger MAF housing and the larger filter, and problem solved. The only problem is that when what was the problem? The larger sleeve is still slightly smaller in diameter than the 3 1/2 inch outer diameter here. So the Type R sleeve is 3 1/4 inner. The new MAF is 3 1/2 outer. So I need to step it down ever so slightly. So I got a buddy of mine working on a little solution for me. He's making whatchamacallit. I got him a 2 inch or a 3 inch piece of pipe that's 3 1/4 inches outer diameter, and he's just slightly rolling it outward, kind of like exhaust work, to make it fit. And there's another rubber coupler. So once he does that, I should be able to pop that on. There will be about 2 inches of added length, and problem solved. So Sorry, Mike. I know you're doing your best. You do a great job. You always help. Everybody vouches for you, but I can't do it. I might reach out to you later and see if you want this, and this back, because I obviously have no use for it. It's brand new. Somebody might want it. I don't know. Anyhow, so other parts. This kit came with all these other clamps and stuff. This was, all in all, it's a great kit. If you decide to use this, if your tuner wants to tune you on a smaller MAF housing, whatever, it'll work. This is all direct plug and play. Now, other parts. Type R turbo bracket. Axion does not, Axion, how do you say it, Mike? Is it Axion or is it Axion? Axion? I don't know. You guys really, cool name for a company. They don't provide this part. It's a slightly bigger turbo bracket than what comes in the RDX. So there's your part number. If you guys want to order that from Honda, it's cheap. It's only like 20 or 30 bucks. I ordered these separately, brand new plugs. My tuner man told me to gap these to 0.025 inches. So there's your part number. If you plan on doing a stage 2 turbo, pick up some of these. Moving on. Let's start with this guy. So these are the other parts that Mike basically helped me source and told me everything I need to make it work. Here's your part number. PRL turbo hardware kit. PRL-HCR-TK-HW. Like I said, you know, even if you don't write down all these part numbers, Michael will hook you up. He'll tell you what you need for this swap. So this comes with, I took these gaskets out of their protective housing. This all comes very nicely wrapped up. But it comes with manifold bolts, all the little gaskets you need, other bolts of some sort, more gaskets, hardware. It's a lot of stuff. And then there's this kit, another PRL kit. This is to help you put this Accord inlet housing on. So when you do this swap, basically a couple of things like these hoses here, here. Some of these hoses don't really play nice. So, and especially there's one oil hose, I think, or coolant hose on the actual turbo that you need. I don't know if you guys got it. Again, there's the part number. So this also comes with, some of these things might be repetitive, like this I think I saw in here. But yeah, we get all these little pipes, right? And honestly, this is my first time seeing this. I don't know what's what. I watched Mike's video. He has a helpful video on the turbo install. I'm trying to make mine a little bit more in-depth, hopefully. But it comes with metal pipes, some rubber hoses. I mean, where could these possibly go? I imagine one of these guys replaces this guy, and then the other end as well. That's a coolant line. This little fitting is a absolute must. This is a lifesaver unless you want to mod your existing fitting. And then I'll figure out where all these other little pipes go. Vacuum hose, hardware. I mean, this is going to be confusing, but I assume that as I'm working, I will figure out what goes where. So, box this back up. And I will keep dismantling this. So I'm going to take the inlet off, and then I'm going to soak my turbo bolts in WD-40 or some kind of rust penetrant. Important note, when you are removing your turbo or your downpipe or whatever you're doing, make sure you do it on a cold motor. Like if you can pull your car into the garage the night before and then let it sit stone cold. Those bolts are not steel. I don't know if they're magnesium or iron or whatever. And depending on how old your car is, you could crack those bolts. So do not try to remove your turbo on a hot car. I don't know this firsthand, but I've heard stories, and I can't imagine how bad of a day I need some wood to knock on. I don't have, oh, here, wood. Knock on wood. I hope I don't break a bolt inside my turbo. Well, if it breaks in the turbo, not so bad, because I have a new turbo. But if you break a bolt or a stud inside your engine head, that's going to be a bad day. And we don't want a bad day. So, well, technically, I'm actually good because I did my downpipe. Nope, I'm not good. I lied. The downpipe connects to the turbo, and then the turbo connects to the head. So I will be very cautious. I think my motor's pretty cold by now. Cool. It still feels a little warm. I pulled my car in this morning, maybe like 4 hours ago or something. So I'll see if how I feel moving forward. I'm going to take this inlet pipe off. Like I said, watch my exhaust part 3 video, and that's going to show you how to take that off. It's really pretty easy. And then after that, I'm going to take off the heat shield from this guy. And to take off the heat shield, you need to take off the O2 sensor. And then you're clear for takeoff to remove the turbo, and that's going to be a whole fun time. So, be right back. Haha, that will be all. That's it. Vacuum hose, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 12 millimeter, 12 millimeter, and all this big clunky nonsense for nothing. Into the pile of scraps we go. So that's what that looks like. Lighting situation is horrible here. Good turbo. Yeah, so those two 10 millimeters were just holding this wonky little wire harness thingamajig in place. Vacuum hose. One goes to the inlet. One goes to a little blow-off valve guy down there. So this is what I used: 6-inch extension, 12 tooth, 12 millimeter, and a flex head, which I didn't really need. And the inlet is off. So now I have to take off O2 sensor and the heat shield. I'm not going to film this. I'm just making these YouTube videos long for no reason. So I'm going to turn this off because this is self-explanatory. This guy comes off with, and again, if you watched my last video, you will already know, this guy. O2 sensor wrench works like this. There's a slot to bypass the wire harness, and then you just feed it right on down there. There we go. And that gets your thing off. And then these guys are 12 millimeters. There's 1, 2, 3, and one little hidden one down here, 4. So there's 4 12 millimeter bolts. And that's it. Okay, so I got this far. I saturated all these bolts in WD-40. If you want to know what I use, it's not regular WD-40. It is WD-40 brand rust penetrant. This stuff has never failed me. It's awesome. These are all 14 millimeters. There's 2 nuts holding the turbo to the top and 2 bolts holding the turbo to the bottom. Then I already removed these are also 14s that hold the downpipe to the turbo. So that one was a raging pain in the ass to reach. I used, what did I use? All right, so I have tools everywhere now. Dang it, I lost it. Anyway, I used a large breaker bar with a long 14 millimeter 12-point socket. The 12 points are really going to help you. Now, what's more annoying are these 2 bolts right here, the bottom of the turbo that bolt to the head. They're very difficult to reach, and you can't really get a socket on them because of limited space. So my contraption was these little guys. I used a more shallow, less angle. If you have them, these are great. So what I ended up doing, and this worked like a charm, I put one on, right? And then I took a 24 millimeter and slipped it on there, and I turned it. And I ended up doing that for this one. I think all 4 of them. I don't remember. But if you have these guys, you probably can't live without them. They're awesome. And I have sets in two angles. So there's a deep angle and a shallow angle. I can't tell you how many times these guys have gotten me out of trouble. Awesome tools to have. If you don't have them, go get some. Anyway, I broke off all the nuts and bolts to the downpipe. I broke the 4 nuts and bolts to the turbo, to the head, but it's still on there. I haven't taken them off yet because I'm not ready for that yet. I'm trying to wrap, I also took off the decorative cover. I'm trying to wrap my head around this little guy. So this goes this way. So if you see, that one goes in there, this one goes in here, and then this pipe is here. This pipe connects to this one. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the way you want to hold it in your hand is like this when you're installing it. I'm about to break off all of these little clamps, and I'm realizing that, thanks EPA, look at this. If you guys know, you know what this is. This is a safety bolt where the head is broken off, so they don't want you taking this off. They don't want you getting rid of your emission system. So I'm gonna take the whole thing off. I'm gonna, take off the whole breather and then flip this guy upside down and figure out how to cut it off or something. Because we clearly need this rubber piece because it connects the metal piping to the valve cover, but we need to take the metal pipe out of this rubber piece, and this is like a theft-proof clamp. Thank you, United States EPA. Amazing job you guys are doing. All right, so I'm gonna do that next, and then let's see. So I have my turbo laid out also. I connected this piece on that came with the kit. So this is basically the same piece as this one right here. It'll all make sense when you're looking at it. It's a lot easier than it looks. I think. So I connected this. I didn't torque these guys down yet. I'm just trying to assemble everything. Now this guy is going to replace this pipe, and I believe this is the orientation it will go in. And then these little 2 holes right here will end up getting bolted to the titanium pipe. So let me do, oh, and also I pre-threaded the studs into here. So those are the 2 holes you can just hand tighten them in. These are self-tightening. They have a little bump on them, so when it bottoms out, you're good. There's no way to really torque them down because once you put the rest of the thing together and put the nut on, the nut will tighten everything all together. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna keep chopping away and figure out what to take off next. So like I said, this line has coolant, and this is a high point, so if you don't want to make a mess, I would suggest not to take it off of here because it's going to spill right out. You would probably want to take it off either here and keep this up. Definitely a little bit might spill out of here. So I'm going to try to remove this. However, I'm pretty sure that this piece may or may not get replaced with this one that it came with. So we might have to take it off from here. I don't know. I won't know until I take it off to fit it. But I believe that should come last because we want to basically take the turbo off first and fit the turbo. And once you fit the turbo, like all of this stuff, all of these little pipes, you don't need any of this. You only need this if you're doing this style of inlet. So if you're not doing this inlet, you don't need any of this other junk. You could literally get this turbo, slap it right on with all the, you know, all these old plastic parts, your stock intake, it'll bolt right up. So let's figure out the turbo situation. And okay, so never mind about these guys. I'm saving them for last because this is sold as a kit, right? So obviously if you're not changing your turbo and you're doing the inlet piping, you can do this all later. Since we're doing the turbo, let's focus on the turbo. So what I have done now is, let's see, I took this off. I don't know if I already mentioned that. By the way, very important. You cannot do a turbo swap without an aftermarket downpipe because stock turbo has the oxygen sensor hole on the turbo. This turbo does not. I don't know where it is, but anyway, you need an aftermarket downpipe because the O2 sensor will be relocated from this hole to the downpipe. With that said, I have pretty much everything I need to remove the turbo. Like I said, I broke these bolts loose. This guy right here, the rubber hose pipe, whatever it is for the intercooler, disconnect that. Then these two lines off the turbo, this first one loops around and it comes around and it goes all the way to here. I took that off. I used a rubber glove and a vice grip so coolant wouldn't spill out of it, and it worked pretty well. I basically just pinched the hose. So I'm removing this to not make a big mess, right? I put it over here and I tucked it in. That stays out of the way for now. The one that's under it, this leaks a whole lot of, I'll show you for better viewing on the turbo. This is heavy with one hand. All right, so this is the one that I clamped off with the vice grip. This is the lower one. When you take this hose off, it will be leaking coolant like all hell broke loose. So put cardboard under the car, put a little tray. I don't know if you could see it, but I put cardboard and a oil pan under the tray. And then what I did was, this kept leaking for so long that I just got sick of it, and I stuck a little dowel, a furniture dowel pin into the hose. Can you see it? Right here, just to stop the leaking, because it kept dripping and dripping profusely. So I'm like, you know what? Let me slow down the leak and stick a pin in there, a wooden dowel. And yeah, this gets messy really fast, and trying to hold the camera and not get coolant everywhere is pretty annoying. Okay, so the only thing that's left is this guy. So this is the oil line from the motor to the turbo. I took this bolt off. It is right here. You could see it has a hole in the tip, a hole on the side, and the way this was, it had a double-sided copper washer. So this little guy basically goes on both sides of that line, but since we don't have one of these and it came with the kit, Two copper washers came with the kit. It's basically the same thing, they're just not connected. I guess they connect them like this from the factory to so you don't forget to put two, maybe, I don't know. But basically, make sure you put one washer on top and one washer on the bottom of this line, or else you're gonna have an oil leak. So this line is loose right now. The only thing that's holding this turbo from being taken off right now is underneath it. There is an oil line, the other side of the oil feed to the motor. I have no idea how to reach that. I really don't know, because my car is not on jack stands or anything. I don't know if that's supposed to be done from underneath or not. And then there's this guy, which is also, I see if you look in through here, let me get my other flashlight. Where's my other flashlight? Ah. So this bolt, I'm gonna go straight, right there. I can barely touch this bolt with my flashlight. That's the bottom of the bracket for the turbo. So I don't know what kind of tool contraption I'm gonna need to get in there from here, but I'm about to figure it out. So after I take that off, I'm gonna take off the four fasteners holding the turbo to the head. And then the only thing that's gonna be holding it is going to be the oil feed on the bottom. So I don't know how to get to that. I really don't. Maybe I should go under the car, but now under the car is a whole bunch of coolant mess. So let me see what I can do. Okay, I took the turbo mount bolt off. 12.14 millimeter with a flex head. You can get in there like this and reach it just enough to break it. And then once you break it, you get in there with one of these guys, a ratcheting flex head box wrench in there. Comes out. I took the bolt out, and I, just so I wouldn't confuse it with other stuff, I put it into the new bracket, put that to the side. Now, big thing I overlooked. If you're going to be doing this turbo swap, it is very advisable to do it at the same time as doing your downpipe, because now the downpipe is in the way. So I took off bolt, nut. These two are studs. They go into the motor head, and they're basically just used for hanging the turbo so you could position it. Now, basically, technically, all I need to do now is grab the whole turbo and pull it forward. But I can't, because it's still hanging on the two studs that are holding the downpipe. So I am in no position to lift the car to take the downpipe off because it's connected to the rest of the exhaust. I don't want to start maneuvering a jack around. So what I did was I took two of the nuts that were basically, you can use the two nuts that were right here. And if you guys know the old school trick, you put one nut on top of another, you tighten them, and then you take the inner nut. And so now these two nuts are tightened together on this stud. And now with the inner nut, I'm slowly extracting this stud. So a bit of a workaround, and it's not that fun to do, but this stud and this stud have to get extracted since I'm not moving this mid-pipe anywhere. Mid-pipe, I'm sorry, downpipe. I'm hoping that once these two studs get extracted from the turbo will slide forward. So let's see. Yep, live and learn, guys. Live and learn. That was not fun. Didn't want to do it. I had to do it. Car's jacked up a little bit. There's no way to take the turbo off without getting the downpipe out of the way. I unbolted the downpipe. It's still in there, but it's jiggling around. Okay, so yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm a little exhausted from this, but the turbo's out. So I basically had everything removed, and literally the only thing that was holding the turbo on was this line, and I could not reach this clamp because the downpipe is right here, and you can't get in there to pull it off. So I was tugging on the turbo. I couldn't get off. I had enough. As soon as I moved the downpipe over a couple of inches, I was able to get a clamp in there, a grip, whatever, a wrench. I'm shot. I gotta take a break. Anyway, I got the clip out of the way, and then I just tugged the whole thing upward. This was advice from Mike. Thanks, Mike. Shout out to you again. He's kind of helping me out as I go along. So now that I have both turbos out, this is the little housing that connects the intercooler piping. So 12 millimeter. Got to transfer this guy over here. Don't forget the gasket, right? When this comes off, before putting it on, you have to take off this little fitting here, which goes down to this hose, and you have to transfer this over to right here. Again, don't forget the gasket, or you'll be screwed. I'm trying to figure out where this tiny little oil strainer goes. Oh no, where'd it go? Yeah, this little thing with a fishnet. I'm not sure where that goes, but I believe. Oh, I think I'm lying. I know where it goes. So this oil feed right here, if you follow it down to the motor, if you remove this line, that little filter thingamajig goes against the engine head. Yeah, this, if you look close enough, it's a gasket and a filter in one. I don't know if I should remove that just for the sake of replacing it. I guess it couldn't hurt. I might just do it since I have it and since everything is out. But yeah, so basically swap this over. Don't need this guy. You got the new one. See the size difference? This goes here. The fun part is going to be there's no notch to orientate it, because once the turbo is in the car, you can't really reach this part. So I'm not sure at what point to put this on, because do I just kind of copy this? You know what I mean? If you're 1 degree off, that's not gonna line up to the block. So I'm not sure what to do here yet. Yeah, this is fun. It's definitely a bit of an involved project, definitely for a home garage. If you don't have a good assortment of tools, I would honestly suggest you don't get involved. If you have a pretty full toolbox, you know, I'm not bragging or anything. These aren't even great tools, but I do have a lot of them, and it helps because I try to keep it clean as I go along. Like every 10 minutes, I'll take all this crap and I'll put it back in and organize it, just because on new projects, you never know how it's going to go, and you never know what kind of tools you'll need. But with this one, I was already in a couple of pickles where see, this is why I clean up. Where I was like, oh, what tool do I need for this? What tool? And it takes a couple of tries to really find the right tool that you need to use for whatever bolt you need to reach. It could be worse. It could be a German car, right? So we're all fortunate that we drive Hondas and Acuras, and we really enjoy them, because in all reality, they're not hard to work on. It's all nuts and bolts, even the newer models. So it's not bad. If you're kind of new at working on cars, it's a bit of a project, but if you're used to messing with Hondas, everything's pretty straightforward. So, you know, go for it. Um, I thought it would be easier, to be honest. It's not that it's difficult, it's just annoying little areas to get into is what makes it um, annoying, I guess is the right word. Not difficult, just annoying. And it really matters what order you do things in, because if you do something out of order, then you get yourself into jams. So order of operations is pretty important on projects like this. For example, I started taking the turbo apart because I thought it would come right out without having to take off the downpipe. Whereas if I just jacked up the car from the beginning, I could have loosened the downpipe, taken it off, and then not had to lay with dripping coolant everywhere trying to take off the downpipe mid-project. So, live and learn. So far so good, not so bad. So I'm gonna swap all these little parts over and pop the new turbo in and see how it goes. It has been quite a while since the last clip. I got a good amount of work done and I was kind of in the zone, so I forgot to film stuff, but this is not really an easy thing to film while you're working, so pardon me for stopping the footage while I do work and then resuming. But anyhow, forget what I said about the downpipe. It needs to come out completely. I couldn't do it. I was struggling. I got sick of it. I took out the downpipe completely. It's the only way you're going to be able to do anything. And it'll make sense. So mentally prepare yourself to take the downpipe off and out of the car entirely. With that said, the turbo is in. The downpipe is back in. Whoa, what a nightmare. O2 sensor is back in. You see it's in the downpipe now. Reconnect that. So you're going to want to undo these little clamps for the both O2 sensors because they're going to be in the way when you're taking out the downpipe. Yeah, so basically just put the turbo in reverse order. There are two little vacuum lines. I guess it's easier to show you on this one. These guys, they're kind of hidden down below when you're taking the turbo out. So as I was pulling on the turbo upward out of the engine bay, I realized these two are still connected. So I disconnected them. It's a good idea to, when you put the new turbo in, take the hoses off of the other end. Like for example, this little hose goes up here. Take it off completely and transfer it over to the new turbo before you put it in the car, because once you put the new turbo back in, reconnecting these hoses is extremely limited on space and it's extremely blind. I managed to do it, but for something so stupid and little, it's not fun. So transfer these hoses onto the new turbo before you put it in the car. Then let's see what else. I still have this guy dangling here. So the two new hoses that came with the kit that I bought, I'm assuming this one goes here, and then this one, the little S-shaped one, replaces this guy. Theoretically, I can just reconnect this as is, but remember, we're doing this thingamajig, and this thingamajig needs to have this pipe replaced. And when you replace this pipe, you need to do these two new hoses. So I'm probably at the point where I can start installing the inlet, I think. Or no, if I install the inlet, it's going to come around and it's going to be in the way of this guy. So I believe the next step is to connect the new metal pipe and the two rubber hoses for the coolant. It's going to make a mess again. I'm scared of that. That's why this is pointing upward. There's coolant in here. So as soon as I take this guy off, which I'm dreading, it's just going to pour coolant down all over the place. So I have to prepare myself on how to think about that so I don't make more of a mess. Also, this guy, these little metal lines right here that are getting replaced with this. So this guy that comes around and goes here, coolant runs through this. I tried to take this one off and it started dripping, so I left it alone to do it for later. I think I'm gonna remove this so I can have leverage to pull this upward so it doesn't keep pouring out. I might stick another dowel pin in there. I don't know. Or I might just jam the new metal piece right in. It's going to be messy. So no matter how you do it, it's going to be messy. But once I situate all these hoses, I'll start filming again and I'll get a good clear shot of which hoses go where and which pipes go where, because they're, you know, these things don't come with instructions. And Mike actually has a good video on YouTube about this turbo being installed, but he kind of did it the same way that I did, where he just does some work, stops filming, does some more work, stops filming. And I get it. I get it. He did the best he could, but even from his video, it's hard to tell, like, because these hoses are fitted and these are like weird, so they obviously can only go in one orientation. And from his videos, it's hard to tell. So I'm gonna do my best, and then try to explain that after I put everything back on. Hey guys, it's the next day. I had to call it quits yesterday, and look at stuff with fresh eyes. I didn't get much work done today, but I got a good amount of progress so far. I only worked on this for about an hour so far. So where I left off in the last little clip, the next thing to do, actually, if you have a turbo blanket, that's the thing to do. When all of this stuff is apart and you have more room, put this blanket on if you have it. It's optional. You don't need it. You probably should get one. I will tell you, it is not fun to put on. There's a YouTube video about it. It's very simple. You just attach 2 wires to the bottom and then you feed the wires through, and then you feed the turbo blanket through and under. It seems very simple. Ugh. It's a raging pain. Anyhow, here's the orientation as promised of these guys. So this hose comes in an L shape. One side is shorter than the other. I put the long side here and the shorter side here. It should be about 45 degrees this way, like towards here. And then make note of this pipe. The left side gets the small bracket, the right side gets the big bracket. See that? And then this hose is the other hose that the kit comes with, and that's pretty much the orientation. The long end comes out here, and then the squiggly end pretty much 45-degree angle this way. So this is what you're left with. It has a little bit of play once the other pipe goes on. And then there's this guy. This is the orientation that this goes into. So when I took the black stock one out, this guy, as I said, coolant runs through this little loopy line and air runs through the other line. There wasn't much coolant left. I thought it was going to spill out when I undid this, but it was mostly drained already from, I guess, from the car sitting for a while. So I put a towel under here and I put a towel under here to catch any coolant, but not much came out. So I connected this guy here, this guy here. This is the factory hose. I had to clip a little bit off, and when you put this on, you'll see how, because the factory metal line comes as like a loop or a hook, and this hose is much longer. So this is about how much I cut off of it, because it used to be like this. Which side did I cut? No, I cut this side off. So this hose used to look like that, and clearly that wouldn't work. So once you put this guy in here, you'll see where you have to clip. And then this line ends up going into this hose eventually, into this slot. And then this guy goes, the kit comes with a fat hose and a skinny hose, and they're both for this pipe. So this is going to go somewhat like this. The little fat one goes onto there, and then it goes on to here somewhere. You're probably going to need to cut this to size. They give you an extra length. But this pipe is going to end up somewhere around here. It lives on top of that, just like that. So my next thing to do right now is put the intake elbow onto the turbo. Don't forget your gasket. Remember, guys, don't forget your gaskets. You're gonna have big problems. It has these little retaining tabs, and I suppose you can put them on either end onto here like that, or onto the receiving end, onto the turbo. I think I'm going to put it onto the turbo, or maybe I'll just put it on here, whichever fits better. I feel like it's going to fit better on the turbo because onto this pipe, it's just a little too wide. These tabs are going to really stretch open, so I think I'm going to put them on the turbo. Anyhow, I'm going to bolt that on. That's the next step. I'm going to bolt that onto here, and after that, this guy gets bolted on, and then after that, this guy gets bolted on, and then we'll almost be done. So let me do all that. I got the elbow on. Good amount of hiccups, believe it or not. So PRL intake inlet elbow hardware kit. Where is it? It came with, oh, I put them away. So this is the stock bolt. It's a 12mm head bolt from this is the factory inlet elbow. This non-threaded part, this bolt is longer than the ones that come with the PRL kit because it has to reach through this very fat piece of plastic. The one that comes with the PRL kit is a little bit shorter. It's maybe like up to here, which is fine because this part on the aluminum elbow is not as fat. However, instead of a 12mm head, it's a 13mm head. So when you put them, pretend I'm doing this over there on the aluminum one. When you put them in, that 1 extra millimeter makes it very hard for a socket to sit on this. So when you tighten one down, these holes are slotted. These are perfectly round, but on the PRL inlet, they're slotted. So this has a little bit of play side to side. When you torque one bolt down, almost fully, not completely fully, because obviously you want both of them seated before torquing them down. When you seat one of them, the other one, whichever side it is, you can't get a socket on top of it. So fortunately, I had extra hardware and I found 12mm ones. So that's hiccup number one. Hiccup number two, this big chunk of plastic that used to be bolted to these two things right here with these specialty looking bolts, right? And these bolts also have a little elbow right here, or whatever it's called. I forgot the technical name for this little piece of fat bolt. Where's the other one? This little chunky part, basically it sits inside of here. Right there. This no longer has anywhere to bolt to. The problem with that is, let me put this down. If you leave this loose and dangling, it touches the serpentine belt. This plastic touches the serpentine belt. I guess they didn't think of that. So what I did was, this vacuum hose right here, it sits in a notch right here, it sits in a notch right here, and it sits in another notch. I pulled it out of the third notch, and this aluminum elbow has this tiny little threaded ear sticking out. So I ran a threaded rod, and I used the notch for the vacuum hose to basically hold it in place. You could also use a bolt. I just used this little threaded rod. This is a 6mm by 1mm thread pitch, and the place I got that little threaded rod was right here. Came with, I don't even know what they're for. It came with the PRL kit, with one of the kits. Not sure what they're for. I'm almost positive it's not for that. It has more likely to do something with all of this stuff on the new turbo. Maybe these guys, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So long story short, however you do it, make sure to secure this chunk of plastic that holds this wire harness. Hiccup number 3, this guy right here, the clamp kit that the PRL kit came with, all these clamps, and none of them fit. They were all too small. So the biggest ones that the kit comes with go from 72mm to 95mm. That one was, I had to take it off of my stage 1 PRL intake. Fortunately, this one was up to 100mm, so I borrowed it. I'm probably not using the stage 1 intake kit since it's being replaced by one of these guys. So yeah, that wouldn't fit here. And that's about that. The next thing is to grab this guy, and the way this goes is you want these 2 threaded tubes on the bottom facing forward, and these 2 little ears facing upward. So this guy is hard to do with one hand. This guy goes in here, right, like that. And then this little friend over here, these holes end up, you got to wiggle it around until they line up right there. You put a bolt through there, you put a bolt through here. Oh yeah, there you go. See, they line up nicely. I'm not sure what this big thing is. It didn't, there's like a big ear welded to this pipe, and there's a threaded hole right under it for an old bracket. And I believe that bracket is this guy right here. So that seems like that's what that's for. Although in no world can you use this bracket with this pipe. This used to be the clip to hold the O2 sensor harness. Maybe I can pull out this little bushing. I think that's what they, I figured it out. So I'm going to try to pull out this rubber bushing, and that's what's used to hold the pipe in place. Okay, problem solved. And then, like I said, I have a buddy of mine working on my Type R elbow. This is the cord elbow that mates to the small MAF housing. I'm waiting for my friend to alter my Type R one, and then we should pretty much be done. Oh, so last thing, this guy goes this way, goes this way. Also hard to do with one hand, but that lives right there. Okay, let me just get one of these bolts. Comes with the kit, all this hardware. A lot of this hardware sucks because they're like weird off sizes. Instead of 12s, they're 13s. Instead of 14s, they're 15s. So that guy lives there. There's another one. And that one doesn't even thread in. Wonderful. Awesome. Great. Cool. See? Aftermarket parts. Oh, I almost dropped it. I'm really hoping it's not the bolt. Let's try another one. You're supposed to be able to hand thread things like this all the way in. How did that even happen? So let's try this bolt. And it gets stuck, which means the threading on this titanium pipe is not so great. Awesome, thanks. Anyway, I'll figure that out. I'll try to chase the thread if I have to. You shouldn't have to do stuff like that. See how this one goes all the way in, all the way smoothly until it bottoms out? This one just stops threading. Brand new parts. So this connection right here, like I said earlier, you have these two hoses it comes with. This little fat one, you can clip it shorter, but that's going to connect right there. It's going to connect these two guys. And then this little guy is going to connect here. And then you loop it around and connect it to there. Because this used to connect to a vacuum port that was on, what was it on? It was on the other elbow or something. Yeah, it went to the elbow. And since this elbow has, you know, it's full aluminum, there's no vacuum ports on it, they had to redirect it and salvage some vacuum from the valve cover. So basically, the vacuum you're getting from this valve cover breather, there's a port right here, so they salvaged it and ran it this way and connects there. And that should be about it. So let me toss all this stuff away. It's 10:30. I should be putting my kid to sleep, so this is going to drag into a third day. But anyhow, I don't have the parts to finish this, so I will see you guys tomorrow. I mean, it's on YouTube, so you don't know what day it is anyway. The only way you can tell from the beginning of my video is that I shaved. So I'll pick up on this when I get the remaining parts over here with the intake filter and all. And that should be a wrap. And after that, I'm going to upload my bass tune that Derek sent me so I can drive around safely and make it all the way to him in Pennsylvania, which is like a 4-hour drive. And then for tuning. So the tuning will probably be the end of this video. Or maybe I'll make a third video.
What's up, guys? I'm back. It is officially 1 week later. This was not a one-day project. I waited a great deal of time for one little part to be custom fabricated for me, which I don't think will apply to 99.9% of you guys, but you know, that's just me building my personal car. So let's take a look at it and go over a few things. I'm gonna grab the camera here.
All right, so here we have it. This is how the turbo and inlet pipe setup should look. I got the second blanket for that's the turbo blanket, and this is a second piece right here that covers the top elbow of the downpipe. I have the, if you can see down there, I should get my flashlight. Makes things easier. If you can see down there, I retained the factory heat shield on the downpipe, and this blanket's cool. It actually comes with holes that bolt the blanket onto the downpipe, if you have a downpipe that has those brackets. So the factory downpipe will have it. Obviously you can't use a factory downpipe for this setup. You have to use a aftermarket one. Again, the reason for that is because the Type R turbo has the oxygen sensor on the downpipe, not on the turbo. So you need an aftermarket downpipe to move this oxygen sensor from the turbo to the downpipe. With that said, this is how the rest of it looks. The elbow, this is the part that I was having fabricated and welded. So see this big lumpy humpy thing? This I had 3D printed. Now, if you recall earlier in the video, I said this was the MAF housing that Mike sent me. And I chose not to use it because Derek told me it is sacrilegious to go with a smaller MAF housing than stock. Even though Mike says it's okay, I chose to go with the bigger one. So this is 3-inch. This is the kit that comes. Oh no, my flashlight is officially inside of my car somewhere. Damn, that's messed up. Oh My flashlight just fell between the radiator and the intercooler. Oh, that's gonna be fun getting that out. Okay, anyhow, back to business. Let's see, how do I make this understandable? All right, so I purchased the inlet kit, right? Again, you don't need this to run a turbo. You can run the full factory intake all the way from beginning to end and swap an MHI stage 2 turbo in. Fine, absolutely fine. It'll bolt right up, yada yada. I want it to be a little extra, chase a couple of extra horsepower, make the engine bay look a little nicer. I got this inlet kit. The inlet kit is meant for an FKA Type R, and it comes with this sleeve that is fitted for an FKA Type R. So this diameter right here is too big. What PRL did was made an alternate elbow, which is this one. You can see it says Accord in there. Dang it, video got cut off. I ordered this piece in a larger size than this one that comes with the whole inlet kit. Right? Now the problem is this piece is 3.5-inch outer diameter, and this Type R elbow is only 3.25-inch inner diameter. So I could not slide this into this elbow. So I had my nerd geek friends where I work, awesome guys, 3D print an adapter to slide onto here and slide into here. This took 2 tries, and after they did that, they cut one out of aluminum, and then I had my welder buddy weld it for me. So this is a perfect fit. I now have a large MAF housing, larger filter, everything flows perfectly, and I could not be any happier. And also, big shout out to Mike from Axion. He is allowing me to send this back along with the filter he sent me for this, along with this elbow, and he's giving me some credit for them because I buy a bunch of car parts from him, so he's letting me return these for store credit, which is awesome. I really appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Big shout out. You've been really great and helpful this whole time. So I guess after all, I am endorsing people in this video. But, you know, I'm not sponsored. I don't get any of this stuff for free. I pay for everything, and I'm doing this all on my own pocket for fun. Anyway, back to this. So I zip tied the filter on, kind of ghetto, just to get the car up and rolling. Because from here to here, this is all just loosely dangling, and you don't really want it dangling around the engine bay. You do want a little bit of suspension components on your intake parts, which is why the factory intake boxes come with these little brackets with rubber pieces on them, because they act as suspension. Because remember, when your car is moving, your engine rocks back and forth, and there is motion in all of this. So zip ties will do for now, especially since it provides a little bit of motion, which is nice. Eventually, I'm going to weld something else to this pipe and use one of those rubber stock bushings and maybe use one of these threaded holes somewhere. There's a few threaded holes that I can use. This whole bracket is a mount specifically for the factory intake. So I might just use this and maybe weld something right here. I'll figure it out. I just need to get the car up and rolling so I can go get it tuned. Another point to make is this room over here, according to my measurements, if I get this filter a little bit shorter, I'll see if I can find a slightly shorter filter, I will be able to put 2 of these factory pieces back in. So this guy goes down in there, and this guy is the hood scoop right here. So the hood scoop, this is hard to do with one hand, but hood scoop feeds air, fresh air, and it goes into here, and then this is going to shoot right out at the filter. So that's going to be pretty cool. I think I'm going to be able to successfully do that. And this has the 2 mounting positions still intact. So for everybody saying that, you know, there's an open filter and there's going to be a lot of hot air in here, yada yada, aside from the fact that I have a massive intercooler in here that's going to be doing all the work, it will still be getting some fresh air through the factory hood scoop, which is nice. What else? What else? A couple of other points to make. I don't know if I already went over this. I've done so many recording segments, but yeah, this is the orientation of the piping. I'll just record it kind of slow so you can see how it looks. Yeah, this guy is annoying. I'm not crazy about it. In a perfect world, I would like to get rid of this pipe right here that feeds oil vapors back into the intake and gets sucked back into the turbo. If this can get closed up and this can get a filter or some sort of catch can, that would be great. And then this coolant line can just be, you can get another hose to replace this hose and make a direct straight fitment with a hose and no metal pipe. And that'll eliminate this entire metal pipe, but that's a story for another day. Also, I will be changing the charge pipe, which is down here. So once you have your intake out, the factory intake, you have all this room to work with, and it's very easy to reach this charge pipe down here. HPS is the company that makes an aftermarket part. It's a metal pipe. It begins right here, and it goes all the way around and back and ends somewhere in there by your throttle body. That should be coming in the mail in a couple of days, which is great because I'm tuning in about a week or so. And to put that in, this will be easy peasy to just unclamp this intake, one clamp and it's off, and then you have to remove the battery and you have perfect access to change that charge pipe. I figure, since I'm doing all this, I might as well throw the charge pipe in. I don't know if it actually does anything, but why not? Why not? I gone through the effort of putting a whole new turbo in, so why not put some extra goodies on it? I did change the spark plugs. I don't even remember if I filmed that. I don't think I did. It's been too many days, but I got the new plugs in there. Where are they? I don't even know where they are. Scanning. Here they are. Again, this is the part number of the plugs you want, and you would ideally gap them to 0.025 inch gap. And for that, I used this little gap tool. You can find these on eBay or Amazon. They're like dirt cheap. And if you don't already have feeler gauges, stuff like this is what's going to measure your gap. Sometimes these tools come with a little feeler gauge set. Do not use gauges like this to gap these types of plugs. Do not. I had these for years and years. This is old school stuff. So now it's just, decorative drawer junk. Anyhow, there are tons of spark plug videos online, how to do them, how to gap them, so I don't think I really have to go over that. But once you've taken apart this much, it's really a matter of you unclip this little guy right here. There's a button here. This is a 10mm. Use a deep socket. There's a 10mm bolt on every coil. You take those out and you start from this side. You unplug the harness, pull out the coil, unplug the harness, pull out the coil, and so on and so forth. And then you reach your spark plugs and do what you got to do. Okay. Now, what else? Oh, let's go over some of these brackets. So, yeah, well, usually when you do aftermarket stuff and alterations and modifications and whatnot, you tend to lose a lot of OEM bracketry. So let's go over this. We went over this guy. This is the stock turbo bracket that goes over here somewhere in the stock turbo. It gets replaced with a Type R bracket that was covered earlier in the video. These guys. So this bracket goes somewhere in this area, and it holds these little clamps, hold these hoses nice and organized. This boot and this pipe were kind of interfering with the metal, so it wasn't letting me slide the sleeve onto the pipe, so this had to go. No big deal. The other thing it does is these two things hold the two oxygen sensor clips in place, but they're tucked down here, and they're pretty well managed, so I'm not worried about that. So that's gone. This guy right here used to go, I believe, to this hole right here, and then this was holding, no, I'm lying, where did this go? Where did this go? Maybe it went over here somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So this guy right here, I borrowed that rubber mount. This little mount right there, that 10mm I'm pointing to, it is one of these guys. So it used to sit in here as suspension, and it was holding up the bottom of the intake or whatever the heck it was holding up, and then this part was holding up a wire harness. More useless junk. This guy was an intake, whatchamacallit. So this used to sit down here, and it basically sat like this. So this sat like that. This was holding the bottom of the intake, one of the intake mounts. These three were bolted to the chassis. One of them is real fun to get to. And then this guy was this little screw right here. So this served a double purpose. The top was holding an intake, and the center bolt was holding the charge pipe. And the charge pipe, as you can see right here, it basically just gave it a little suspension for wobbling. So I actually had my own 90-degree. I didn't want to lose that. The intake I didn't care about because I have an aftermarket intake. But for the charge pipe, I wanted it to stay still. And you can't really see this bracket, but I had the perfect bracket that I actually had laying around. I might have two of them. I'll show you what it looks like. And these, yes, I have two. So these came with my fire extinguisher kit that I have in my Civic, and the bracket looks like this. So this actually worked out perfect. So where these three bolts are, I was able to, these three bolts, I was able to use two of the holes in the chassis, these two holes. So that basically mimicked that right there. And then for this hole, I got a really big washer, and I put it right through this big hole. You have a little bit of adjustability, and the height and everything. It worked out. It worked out perfectly. So good luck finding one of these. I have one extra one, and no, I won't sell it because this came with a $600 fire extinguisher. So I like to keep junk, because you never know. My girlfriend always gets on my case. Oh, you keep all these junk. But you know what? It gets used, because when you're in a jam, you always find something to get yourself out of the jam. Yeah, so these are the brackets that were lost. These are all the old gaskets. I'm so glad I didn't have to use these guys, because this was my fix for the MAF housing. I was gonna just do a little jammy like this of some sort. I forgot how. No, it was like that. I don't know. I was gonna use all of these pieces to connect this, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it properly and just get it fabricated and welded, and this looks beautiful. So with that said, the next step, well, not next, but the only steps left are to bleed the coolant system. Genuine fluid only. Don't mess around, guys. Genuine fluids only. A lot of coolant came out of the turbo when I did this kit. Well, everywhere actually. Let's see if I can see how much came out. If I can get under here and find my flashlight. Nope, my flashlight's gone for life, and it now lives inside my chassis. Oh, can't reach. That's a substantial amount of fluid. That is, I don't know, at least 2 quarts, I would say. So before I start doing the coolant, I have to upload my map, and I think it should go without saying that if you're doing a turbo swap like this, you need engine management. It's not going to work on your stock ECU. So you need to get either Honda or a K-tuner. The good thing is if you get an MHI turbocharger and you have Honda, they already give you the tune. It is literally plug and play. They send me this with the turbocharger. A little dongle, you plug it in and you upload the tune. It is fully bolt on. You don't have to go to a tuner and get it tuned. Like, you're just good to go, which is awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have Honda. I run K-tuner on my RDX. I run Honda on my Civic. So, got to get a K-tuner. You need a laptop. You need your tuner to send you a base map. So right now I will connect my laptop with this little guy. I'm going to upload the base map that my tuner sent me to be able to start the car safely on this setup. On this map, you cannot start ripping on the car. You have to drive it very conservatively. Try as hard as possible not to go into boost. The point of the map is to allow me to drive the car to him safely to get it tuned. So